All right, suppose we as Marxist educators are successful and the revolution comes, the current capitalist system is overthrown, and we're now in a position to start building a socialist society. Our job as educators changes significantly at this point, in part because now the education system will be entirely state-run, and it will be state-run by politicians and other powers that be who are committed to Marxism as the ruling ideology, and so we will have the full support and backing of the system to bring about and to do our jobs in helping to bring about a fully socialistic system here. However, the transition from capitalism to socialism, according to Marxism, is not going to be overnight. It's certainly going to be at least the work of a generation, and so there's going to be a transition stage that classical Marxism calls the dictatorship of the proletariat. That's to say the proletariat, that is to say the workers and those who are advocates of the workers' cause will be the ones who are running the show, but they will have to run the show in a dictatorial fashion. And the dictatorship is necessary because we're still a society that is largely split. We do have a certain number of people who are committed to the socialist cause, and every day there are more young people who are being born who have not existed under the prior capitalist system. But in this transition stage, we still have a huge number of people in the population, perhaps, and even likely a majority of the population who grew up under the old system, that is to say, who grew up under capitalism, who grew up under a religiously based society as well. And so those individuals are still either wholly or at least partially conditioned to still think in terms of capitalism and religion. So during this transition stage, we're going to need to exercise in a top-down fashion an education system that, on the one hand, deals with those people who are still younger and not yet or haven't yet been conditioned by capitalism. They are tabula rasa. We can shape them how we wish to create the new socialist man. But at the same time, we're going to have an education system that takes into account those who were earlier conditioned by and may still be committed to the earlier system of capitalism and religion. Now, of course, one solution, and the most ruthless solution that some Marxists will advocate, is simply to get rid of entirely anybody who is beyond a certain age on the grounds that those people cannot be trusted. It's not likely that they can be reconditioned, or that given their age, it's not worth the expense of trying to recondition them. And so we can simply get rid of, and I'll just use that as a euphemism now, get rid of the entire older generation or anybody who seems not to be signed up on the cause. And in that case, we certainly will need to use dictatorial methods in order to get rid of them, and then we can focus entirely on the tabula rasa younger generation and teach them about socialism in an appropriate kind of fashion. Now, there is going to be one delicate issue. In the older generation, you're going to have a large number of people who are parents, and certainly in the younger generation, we're going to have all of the children. And one of the things that is common in pre-socialist societies is an importance placed on the family unit. But of course, the family unit is something that comes out of individualism, right? I, as an individual, choose someone to be my mate, and she, right, or he, depending on what my sex is, has also chosen me, right? We as individuals have created certain children, and we see them as our children. We don't see them as society's children, and we prefer our children to other people's children. And so we're operating on an individualistic, self-interested, private basis here. But of course, from the Marxist perspective, that is entirely wrong. We should not see ourselves as individuals who are making our own choices about our mates or who have special relationships to our children. We're all part of a larger community, all part of society. And so these bourgeois notions about the importance of family is something that we're going to have to overcome in the dictatorship of the proletariat stage. And it's going to be fairly pointedly directed because, of course, many of the parents are going to believe in some sort of a capitalist market-oriented system, or they might believe in old-fashioned liberal democracy, or they themselves might be religious. And if we then are, on the one hand, bringing students into schools and trying to teach them about socialism, but then they go home at the end of the day and they learn all of these countervailing methods, there's no guarantee that they're going to listen to us more than they're going to listen to their parents. They might then, at the very least, be confused, and then it's just going to delay the amount of time that it takes us to create a generation of adults who are fully signed on to the socialist program. So one thing that we then might do is, as institute, and this would be a modest Marxist proposal, institute boarding schools where for a significant amount of time, perhaps the entire academic year, students are taken away from their parents and they're sent to boarding schools, and so for the bulk of their childhood they are under our control in the dictatorial system. And then we might allow to a certain extent some family contact during vacations and summer breaks and so forth. Or of course the more ruthless regime will be simply to break down the family structures altogether, to get students past the notion of thinking that they have special links that are private affections to particular individuals who are their parents, not allow any contact with the new generation and the old generation, and then that will speed up the process of developing a new generation of socialist individuals.